Hello and welcome to our video on understanding research methods in psychology. Have you ever wondered why people behave in a certain way? Well, psychology is the science that helps us understand human behavior. Psychology is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. In order to study human behavior, psychologists use research methods. These methods help psychologists to test hypotheses and gather data. There are different types of research methods used in psychology. Let's understand each method carefully. Surveys. Surveys are a popular research method in psychology. They involve asking people questions about their attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, and experiences. Surveys can be conducted through interviews, questionnaires, or online polls. For example, a researcher might conduct a survey to measure people's attitudes toward a certain social issue, such as gun control or climate change. They could ask participants questions about their beliefs and values related to the topic. One advantage of surveys is that they can help researchers gather large amounts of data quickly and efficiently. Surveys can also be used to reach a wider audience, as they can be administered to people in different geographic locations. However, there are some limitations to using surveys in psychology research. One limitation is that surveys may only provide a superficial understanding of people's experiences or behaviors, as they typically rely on self-report measures. Self-report measures are based on people's self-assessments and may be influenced by factors such as social desirability bias or memory recall bias. Additionally, surveys may also be limited in terms of the types of questions that can be asked. Some questions may be difficult to answer or may require more nuanced responses than a survey can provide. Surveys can also be limited by response rates, as some people may choose not to participate or may drop out of the survey before completing it. Case studies. Case studies involve an in-depth analysis of a particular individual, group, or situation. Researchers collect data through observations, interviews, and sometimes even experiments. For example, a psychologist might conduct a case study of a patient with a rare and unusual disorder to better understand the disorder and how it can be treated. They might collect data through interviews with the patient and their family members, as well as observations of their behavior. One advantage of case studies is that they provide a detailed understanding of the phenomenon being studied. This can be particularly useful in situations where little is known about a particular condition or group of people. However, case studies also have limitations. Because they focus on a particular individual or group, they may not be generalizable to the larger population. In other words, findings from a case study cannot be assumed to apply to everyone with the same condition or characteristics. Additionally, because case studies often rely on subjective data collection methods such as interviews and observations, there is a risk of researcher bias affecting the results. Observation method. Observation method is one of the research methods used in psychology. In this method, the researcher observes and records the behavior of individuals or groups without any interference or manipulation. This method is commonly used in naturalistic settings, such as in schools, homes, workplaces, and public places, to gain insight into human behavior. There are two types of observation methods: naturalistic observation and participant observation. In naturalistic observation, the researcher observes and records the behavior of individuals or groups in their natural setting, without any intervention or manipulation. In participant observation, the researcher becomes a part of the group being observed and records their behavior while participating in their activities. For example, a psychologist might conduct an observational study of children's play behavior to better understand how they interact with each other and develop social skills. They could observe children in a naturalistic setting, such as a playground, and take notes on their behaviors and interactions. Observation method is a valuable research method in psychology, as it allows researchers to study behavior in real-life situations. However, it has some limitations, such as observer bias, where the observer's own biases and opinions may influence their observations. Therefore, it is important to minimize observer bias by using multiple observers and coding schemes. Experiments. Experiments are a powerful research method in psychology. They involve manipulating one or more variables and measuring the effects on behavior. Experiments can provide researchers with a cause-and-effect relationship between variables, and they can be used to test theories and hypotheses. However, experiments can also be time-consuming and expensive, and it can be difficult to control all the variables involved. Experiments can also be used to test theories and hypotheses. A hypothesis is a testable prediction about the relationship between variables, while a theory is a well-established explanation for a phenomenon. By testing hypotheses and theories through experiments, researchers can gain a better understanding of how different variables are related and how they affect behavior. For example, an experiment could be conducted to determine whether a new therapy technique is effective in reducing symptoms of anxiety. The researcher would randomly assign participants to a treatment group or a control group and then measure the effects of the treatment on anxiety levels. However, experiments also have some limitations. They can be time-consuming and expensive to conduct, and it can be difficult to control all the variables involved. For example, there may be other factors that influence memory performance besides caffeine, such as participant stress levels or sleep quality. Additionally, experiments may not always be feasible or ethical, particularly if they involve manipulating variables that could potentially harm participants. Correlational studies. Correlational studies are research methods in psychology that involve measuring the relationship between two or more variables. Unlike experiments, correlational studies do not involve the manipulation of variables but instead, look at how they naturally relate to each other. Correlational studies can help researchers identify potential relationships between variables, but they cannot establish causation. For example, a correlational study might find a strong positive relationship between hours of exercise and feelings of happiness. However, this does not mean that exercise causes happiness or vice versa. There may be other factors involved that influence both exercise and happiness. For example, a researcher might conduct a correlational study to determine whether there is a relationship between a person's level of education and income. They would collect data on both variables and then analyze the relationship between them. Another limitation of correlational studies is that they cannot control for extraneous variables, which can lead to spurious correlations. For example, a study might find a correlation between eating ice cream and crime rates, but this is likely due to a third variable such as warmer weather, which increases both ice cream consumption and crime rates. Despite these limitations, correlational studies can be valuable in providing information about the relationship between variables, which can help guide future research and interventions. In conclusion, research methods are essential tools in psychology that help us to understand human behavior. It is important to use appropriate research methods and ethical considerations when conducting research. We hope you found this video informative and useful. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more educational videos.